Welcome to today's podcast. I'm Angela, your host, and thank you for spending some time with us today. On this podcast, we take a fresh perspective to the health, wellness, and weight loss journey, exploring it from many different angles. And today, we have another insightful episode for you with another inspirational guest. I am absolutely delighted to welcome V to our podcast. Welcome, V.
Hi, Angela. Thanks ever so much for having me. It's lovely to be here. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm so excited to get into your story and to share that with our community, V, because we've worked together for quite a while, haven't we, in the past? So really excited to share with our members your fantastic journey of your weight loss success. So thank you so much for being with us today. Sophie, let's get straight into this podcast and tell us about yourself.
So I'm V Mackenzie. I don't really want to say how old I am, but no, I'm 39 years of age. I'm a mum of two beautiful girls and a wife to my lovely husband, Leon. So yeah, it's just the four of us here at home. That's mainly the householdy bit. So yeah, quite busy mum. So
lovely. So I imagine being a mum of two, you're quite busy, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. Even probably more so because they're quite distant in age. So one's they're 10 years apart. So, whilst I'm doing grown things with a bigger one, I'm still kind of doing like really small activities with a smaller one. So it kind of splits up the kind of mum that I am. So I have to be kind of aware of that on that basis as well. So, the little one's doing lots more activities because we're trying to get her into stuff, where the big one kind of she's found herself, she knows what she's interested in, she knows what she wants to do. So it's just trying to make sure that I'm always constantly staying engaged with both of them, but having their kind of separate time, so it is kind of split down the middle. And then I've obviously got hubby as well, and he needs time too.
Yeah, absolutely. So trying to find time for the family and then make time for yourself, I can imagine can be a little bit challenging. So V, tell us, where does your wellness and weight loss journey begin?
Oh my gosh, Angela, we're going to have to go really far back because a lot of people think it started just when I became a mum. It actually goes back a lot further than that. It goes back to being round about, I'd say, 60, in between 16 to 17. I had a really big whoosh hormone change. I was a young person. I'm not going to say woman because I don't think I was at that time, but I was a young person at that time. Lots of things going on, being quite exploratory, boyfriends, this, that, finishing school, going off to college, and all of those things. And I actually, in between that phase, had quite a drastic, over one summer, a drastic weight gain. So there was a lot of hormone changes that happened that I wasn't necessarily expected, because before that, I was always very sporty. I used to run for athletics, for Leicester Coritanians, as a young sports person. So I've always had some sort of like sporting, very active lifestyle before that. So then this like peak age happened, and it literally felt like it happened from over a summer. And I would always remember my dance teacher's face when a lot of us, it wasn't necessarily just me, but at that time I felt like it was just me. A lot of us, obviously, the year before, or before the Christmas, before we went the following September, we all had our auditions and stuff like that. Then it came to obviously getting like GCSE results and all those things. I'm like, yeah, we're going back, we're going into college. And I remember that over those 6 to 8 weeks being off, was still very active, but my body was taking on lots of different changes, and lots of changes that I wasn't actually very aware of. And I think my first bombardment of that awareness was seeing my dance teacher's face, and that look of, oh gosh, and okay. And it was that, what happened to you? Because instantly I probably went from, then I was obviously quite young, probably like a size 8, 10, easily to a 16 plus. and that was over a short period of time. So I remember seeing that look in her face, but being obviously not aware at the time, because I sort of always like reverted back to kind of having like almost like a body dysmorphia, but mine was like the
Mm.
opposite way around, because I obviously knew and remembered what obviously I looked like being sporty. You know, my thighs are always like quite muscly and things like that. So, you know, being looking a little bit heavier set didn't matter. But I remember just this distinctive look in my dance teacher's face, and it was that look of disappointment. Like, what have you done? What have you been doing? Like, you know, and being in that environment, especially in like a dancer's kind of environment, you know, your diet and how you look after yourself is very, very important. And instantly, I remember her seeing that look, and it was that, what have you done look, and what are we now going to do with you,
Wow.
sort of thing.
Wow. And isn't it interesting how words, we know that words can really impact us,
Mm,
but the look in somebody's face
yeah.
can say, as they say, you know, it says 1,000 words.
Mm,
And you're saying that the look in her face
yeah.
was a factor for you. That is so interesting.
Yeah.
Wasn't what she said just the look?
Just, it was just the look alone. Like, I know her being like the type of dance teacher that she was, and I think it wasn't just her. There was other dance teachers as well, but they all had a similar look. But I probably didn't feel it as much, and I didn't. Obviously, this is where kind of, you know, the that out of body experience and having body dysmorphia, but the opposite way round sort of thing. So I still saw myself as how I was before, and you know,
Mm.
that 8 weeks in the summer, it didn't happen. I didn't actually know the extreme of what that potentially had done to me. I noticed little things, probably things like, you know, slight stretch marks and things like that. But I'd always noticed that on people like runners, you know, from sometimes it's from like mass muscle build up and things like that can often sometimes stretch the skin. So that didn't really bother me. I was like, oh well, it's just a couple of little veiny stretch marks. They'll go, they'll fade, and you know, I'll carry on. So I didn't have any real kind of perspective what it was. My mum being obviously the lovely woman that my mum is, like, you know, I was in her eyes, you know, all her children are beautiful, they're perfect as they are. Yeah. So I never really had that kind of coming from my mum. So it was the first hand, it was like, it was the teachers. There was probably some family members who did the same look. Then I started to kind of clock this, and this was like going on a year. And it was when I would tell people, they're like, "What do you do?" sort of thing, and this and that. And I was like, "Oh, I'm at college, and you know, I do dance and performing arts and things like that." And they're thinking, "Well, we expect, you know, this
Yeah.
look, this
Yeah.
type," and you got to think this is really, you know, early 2000s as well. So, you know, we're going through a mass kind of thin as in, and if you're a little bit thick, that is completely out. So not only was I battling obviously my own little thing with myself, I had lots of like industry things telling me this is how everybody should be. You know, we should
Mm.
all apply to an aesthetic that even in my family, I knew didn't really exist. Like being from like Caribbean descent, um, and looking at all my other family members, like, you know, we weren't all like mega skinny. I mean, we had skinny aunts and things like that. So we all knew that everyone came in different shapes and sizes. But it was never really a thing until I went, and then I really felt the full force of someone staring at me down the barrel. It was like looking down the barrel of a gun and someone going, "What am I going to do with you?" But there was other people as well. You know, we'd all, I think there was a whole cohort of us who had drastically put on some weight. So we knew that somewhere along the line there was something going on, or something had clicked or happened, or they just wasn't expecting our hormones. And especially, you know, there was quite a few of us, and we were of like mixed backgrounds. So there was quite a lot of mixed race girls and things like that. And we all did kind of blossom up. And I don't think the dance teachers were kind of ready to
Mm.
see what our new womanly forms would kind of look like based on what they had previously seen, where we was all very in our juvenile state. And then obviously come into this like 16/17 era of our life where our body
Yeah.
did, the chemical makeup changed. Those, you know, curves started hitting in places where they didn't necessarily see it. Yeah, I did balloon up a little bit, but that was mainly, I knew what that was. That was things like, you know, going on like things like the pill and all of those
Mm.
things, because you know it was very heavily then like you know, nobody wants to be a teenage mum and things like that. And having watched that previously from high school, there was like a massive like cohort of that. So, you know, that was heavily pushed on my age range to be like, well, you know, you'd go to like a health clinic, or even from school, it was very highly focused on, you know, we don't want any of you guys having babies at the age of like 17, 18. We want you to go off and grow up and do what you want to do. So it was kind of almost mimicked as in to say, like, if you want to stay in school, go to college, go to uni, you know, here's your answer. And I do feel sometimes that that had a little bit of influence, because
Yeah.
that was probably the only thing that changed about my diet and intake over that period of time. So I know that there was obviously chemicals within taking those that obviously had disrupted, that didn't necessarily agree with me. And then when I asked that a wider audience, everyone had pretty much been given the same kind of like advice on that. So we was all pretty much like, you know, there's a whole cohort of us as dancers that were on the pill or some kind of pregnancy prevention
Yeah.
program, whether that was, you know, IUDs and things like that, and they were having a triggered response
And
within it. So yeah.
And isn't that so interesting?
Mm.
Because, you know, as women, young girls going through that transition, there are so many things that can impact weight gain.
Yeah.
And we don't always realize, as you say, you know, going on the pill, that contraception, you know, that hormonal change that happens naturally to our bodies as we're transitioning through into womanhood, all can have a big impact on our health and our weight. And we can see either weight gain or weight loss sometimes. But isn't it interesting? You were saying about the image that belies the
Mm.
dance. So I just think that there's something there within the culture about acceptance of different sizes, different
Yeah.
body shapes, rather than this one image of what a dancer looks like. Do you think that's changed to some extent, or is it still
Um,
very much the same?
no, I think it has. Like, you know, when I look at kind of popular culture now in comparison, going back just even the last 20 years, and I look at what it was then, if you look at even like musical videos, and that could be anything from even like an R&B hit, even
Mm.
going over obviously onto other genres, you would never see, very rarely see a
Yeah.
heavier thick set girl on set, unless there was some sort of narrative behind the video that then you would see, you know, that kind of role play out, or that person be depicted in that scene or scenario. And it would usually be because they're trying to obviously tell some sort of story within that. It was never because, you know, we want her to be the prima in the middle and she's the
Mm.
star of the show sort of thing. Yeah, and I was always, you know, kind of probably like made very aware that my attributes were going to be probably a bit of a problem. So, you know, I've never had what they called, you know, a flat bum. So it's always been like a curvaceous one. And I remember, you know, it used to be like running jokes within like families and things like that. And everyone would be like, oh, this and that. Because, you know, I think it becomes hereditary, because especially growing up and grandparents coming over from the Caribbean, um, and then obviously living here, to then my mum and my auntie kind of being like first like generation um descent children going to school, and then being kind of that ostracized. I think they sort of, you know, subliminally picked up some of these kind of tropes that were spoken to them, which, you know, unbeknowing sometimes, I'd say like some aunts and things like that, they spoke those tropes out loud sort of thing. You know, not trying to even be necessarily malice. You could probably look at it now in this day and age and someone would be like, oh, like you'd be stricken out. But, you know, back then it wasn't. It was maybe brought into and been like set like a joke, and, you
Mm.
know, and just kind of being tailored in that way. So I do remember obviously people obviously commenting, because I was obviously the lighter skinned
Mm.
child out of obviously all my mum, my auntie and everyone, they're all black.
Mm.
So it wasn't abnormal. But then for me to be a mixed race child, so also being half Irish, they didn't expect some of
Mm.
my black attributes to be
Right.
so prominent within my physical makeup. So, you know, there was a few little jabs and jives and things like that, but I think it got really heightened when I went off. And
Mm.
obviously, like you say, um, I've, mixing things like pharmaceuticals in with my genetic makeup, and then having that kind of burst of all of that really heightened it even more, to the point
Yeah.
where that's when I actually started thinking I need to do something about my
Right.
weight.
I was
Um,
just about to ask you, so
mm,
was there a defining moment? So we've seen you transition, you've gone into, started your dancing career at college, then those hormones kick in, as well as things like the pill, and your body's transitioning, you have that weight gain. Was there a defining moment for you that made you think, you know what, I need to do something about this?
yeah, so it was probably when I was 17. That's when I actually walked into my first weight loss class. I remember I remember walking into it, and then people kind of going, "Why are you here?" Like, it was that look. It was yet again this, there's this often, it's this look. It's not necessarily it's not spoken
Mm.
word half the time. It's it's more of a look. I think one person had the courage, in, like, I'm talking like a class of 35 people, going, "You don't need to be here." And that at the time probably felt good, but I was like, well, you know, you don't really know my story. You don't know what it is that I'm obviously intending and trying to do. But obviously, I do, because I put on in that time, in the summer, well over 2 to 2.5 stone. And trying to, I would admissibly say it, squash myself into the clothes that I was wearing previously. Yeah, I managed to get in them, but the whole, I think it goes next level when I was getting to the point where my clothes were digging in that badly that I actually had to go and look. I was like, right, I think this is the realizing point. And that was probably when I was like 17. I was like, I'm just going to have to buy the next size up. Like, we're going to have to see what this looks like now. But yeah, I remember walking into the weight loss class and kind of getting, either it was, I was too young to be there, but at the time, this weight loss class, they did take on 16-year-olds. It was a new thing that they had done. So I was like, oh, I'm old enough, you go with a parent and things like that. And my mum had joined as well as an aunt. So I was like, yeah, okay, we'll go. But I remember going to get weighed in one day, and I think there was some new people coming in, and they were like, what are you doing here, sort of thing. Admittedly, because like I mentioned before, I did still have that kind of body dysmorphia, but in reverse. So I was still wearing possibly clothes that they maybe deemed or felt that I shouldn't have been, or I was maybe a little bit too happy about my size in order to be wearing what I
Yeah.
remember the outfit. It was like some white capri pants, and they were really tight, like in that stretchy lycra material. But being a dancer, we always wore lycra materials. Like, it was like second skin to us. So I didn't really see a problem with it. I was like, I had a top on. It wasn't too protruding or whatever, anything, but it was like a shock being in that room. And how dare you, wear something so flamboyant like that in a weight loss group. So that was quite funny.
Hi guys, it's that time of the podcast to give a special shout out to our supporters. There are different ways to support the channel, either via YouTube at Time Out with Angela or Patreon Time Out with Angela. Our memberships start from just $1.99, and we also have a $4.99 membership. So feel free to nip over there and check out what is included. So there's some great benefits. Also, you may choose to buy us a coffee or make a donation via PayPal. Any donation that you make will be put to good use. It will be used to invest in the channel via equipment and software so that we can improve the quality of our shows. So this week, there's 3 people that deserve a huge shout out. So a huge shout out goes out to Diane, Horatio, and to Tony, staunch supporters of our podcast, and I appreciate you. So guys, if you would like a shout out on the channel, then feel free to head over and support the channel. It's time to get back to the podcast. And isn't it, again, it's so interesting, all this, the mindset where you feel that, you know, and in your body, you see that change and that weight gain.
Yeah,
But to other people, it's like, well, you don't
it
need to
wasn't
lose
enough.
anything.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
so how did you balance that in terms of your mindset and moving past that?
Well, I went for a time, and like anybody else and anyone else on a weight loss journey, you go for a bit and you probably dip out, and then you go back again, you try a new group, or you go to a different location and you dip back out. So it was very much a lot of that. I think more the defining moment was when I was, after I'd obviously gone through uni and everything, I just kind of like grew into that. I thought, well, do you know what? Nothing's really going to change here. I've got to move away from home. I'm at uni, so I moved all the way to Nottingham. Tried to just do as best as I could. The uni life probably helped a little bit. So being like a struggling student actually did probably help with part of my weight loss, because I was able to lose a significant amount of weight. But then obviously there's a second hand part of being a uni student, which was going
Mm,
out, getting in
mm,
really late, and doing that whole cycle and trying to balance what that looked like, as well as living versus obviously trying to look after my body, and getting to a place where I felt comfortable and confident within myself. And I think that was another thing as well. People never actually knew how much my weight affected me, because they just perceived me to be really, really confident and outgoing, and I think that probably helped me, as well as obviously doing the performing arts. That probably helped me because I was able to play a different role, and I could play into those roles. And yes, I could play being a really confident person, but behind closed doors, I was probably sitting there poking myself, going, "Oh, that, change that, oh, change that, change that." But I would never kind of allow a lot of people in to me to see that part of me.
that
And if
is
anyone
so
said it,
interesting. That is
mm,
so interesting. So interesting. So on a day-to-day basis, in front of the world, you were playing a part, you were
yeah.
performing, but deep down,
Mm.
whilst people saw that you was at an ideal weight and probably people probably wanted to be at your weight,
Yeah,
for you, you were unhappy with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of, it was a lot of pressure, because it was at that time as well. It was about very much an in thing to be underweight to a degree. So, you've got quite a lot of elements, and you're thinking, am I at my weight? And when I look back and I think, yeah, okay, there was a time where I blew up and I wasn't ready for it. But even looking back to that, when I look at that person now, I'm like, wow, you were really hard on her. You really gave her some jip. Um, Even to the point when I was 22, I turned 23 when I had my first daughter. And I think, you know, like anyone, I think just in my family in general, I think we just tend to balloon up, because my sister, she was all of like a size 8, and she would always balloon up when pregnant to like a size
Mm.
16, 18, easy. So I think a more defining moment was the doctor's look, and he did that look, and I was like, I'm fed up with this look now that people are giving me, like, constantly. Went to the doctors, told him that I was pregnant and this and that, and trying to get all your midwife appointments. You're just thinking, right, I've got this baby now, just want to make sure I'm doing all the right steps. And him doing this look, and I think he was probably the first bravest person that actually just said, I'm just going to let you know from now, you're going to need to watch what you're eating.
Wow.
And really leaned in, that leaning
Mm.
that the doctors do. And he was like very concerned, like, oh, and I was like, okay. And he was like, yeah, because he basically did that kind of as exasperated face of, if we allow you to eat rubbish, you're going to be massive. Um, and literally, lo and behold, anyway, I was going to be massive anyway. I think there's just genetic makeup in that. That is my body's natural way of protecting and defending when I'm pregnant. I just blow up and become this, like, just bigger in general. But the doctor was very, very concerned. Um, so I think I had kind of had that when I was pregnant as well. But I remember after giving birth to my daughter, still not necessarily being happy, moved down to London then as well. So I lived in Surrey for a while after when I got pregnant with her, and stayed there and then came back to Leicester, gave birth, and then went back. And I just remember being really lonely.
Mm.
And I think then that had a little bit of a what's it called, a little bit of an impact, because then
Mm.
it was like, right, what do I turn to when I'm not feeling like happy?
Yeah.
My probably vice was, it was ice cream and packs of crisps and things like that. And I think when my daughter was first born, it was very much that in first year, until I
Yeah.
actually had another aha moment of, I need to sort myself out.
Yeah. Sophie, tell us about your weight loss journey. So you joined Weight Watchers,
Yeah.
yeah. You got over that initial, people looking at you, why you're even here, we want to be your size, but you feeling that you've got weight to lose.
Yeah.
And tell us a bit more about how you lost that weight. What were some of the key things you did to lose the weight?
Oh, yeah. So basically, after having my first daughter, I think I did, I comfort air, being a new mum, all of those things. And I was like, kind of comfort eating, using ice cream and like packets of crisps was like, oh, I'm not lonely, I'm all right. And this is what motherhood is. And I think I went into a real big realm. I think I came to a understanding when my daughter was born, or an agreed understanding that I think I had with myself, but that was also mainly to shield myself. And I got this grasp of, this is what mums look like. I'm a mum now, and this is what mums look like. And I think it was just that, as well as, maybe environment, people that I'd seen or been around me, or people constantly telling me, oh, when you have a baby,
Mm.
nothing snaps back and things like that. And so I think I just kind of carried their tropes of what mums should be, what mums should
Mm.
look like, and all of those things. But I think more defining moment was when my little one, we'll go and park and things like that, and she could actually, run around and get up and do those things. That's when I was like, no, this has got to change. And I think it was when she asked me, or tapped on the slide for me to come down. Yeah, that wasn't going to happen, Angela. At that point in time, I was carrying quite a lot of, still a lot of weight. A lot of people were like, oh yeah, it's just postpartum weight. No, it wasn't. It was that plus more. And I was like, right, me fitting down this slide and doing all these things with my daughter whilst, she's trying to obviously develop and grow, is not going to happen. And at obviously one point, me and her dad, obviously we broke up, and then it was just me and her. I was like, I'm her person, and she wants to play with me, and I can't admit to play. So that's when I saw myself go back. So, how I was talking about that yo-yo in and out of kind of weight loss groups and
Right.
things like that.
Yeah.
That's what got me back. And,
Right.
signed back up to Weight Watchers, and I said, this mum can, and I'm basically
Love
going to
that.
do it, because my motivation was, I'm going to get my butt down the slide with my, obviously then coming up to being a 2-year-old. We're going to be going down the slide, and I'm going to use that as like a motivation and a goal to kind of get there. And I think I spent like 9 months, working at obviously getting down to gold. I think in the end it was just about 10 to nearly 10.5 months when I finally obviously got, for the first time, got to my goal weight then, which is like a big celebration thing.
Yeah.
And I remember obviously getting it and thinking, oh my God, I am Teflon now. I've got to gold. Nothing can touch me. Yeah. And I did that. And I remember 3 months later, when I thought I was Teflon and nothing could stick to me anymore, and I remember just popping on a whole nother stone straight after, like that.
What caused that? What caused that weight gain?
Basically, I went into that mindset of, right, I've done X for this amount of time, and yeah, nothing can touch me. And I think at the time when I was doing that, mindset refocusing wasn't a big focus in the weight loss industry as like what it is today. So I was always that person, or that member, so to speak, that constantly lost every single week. Yeah, I didn't have any trials and tribulations. It was, it was either big losses or it was really tiny ones, but it was always still a loss. So I don't think within myself, with it being like that, I learned anything. I didn't learn anything, Angela. I learned how to lose weight, and I did it effectively. And
Interesting.
I really great rate for some people, especially if, you know, you're a movie star and you're going in for a role. That would be an exponential rate of losing that weight, getting it off, and then going for your role. And I think when I got to the end of it, I was like, yeah, I am Teflon, nothing can touch me, oh my god, I got to go. But my thought process hadn't changed. So my body had changed, my physique had changed, you know, getting down the slide, you know, I was like, yeah, bang, I've hit that goal. But the main thing that I hadn't changed was my mindset. So when it was like, oh, okay, I can now eat ice cream again. And
Yeah.
I can eat, you know, my favourite things like nibbling on crisps is my like a favourite pastime of mine. And yeah, I can do that now because I'm at gold. And I think I had this persona of, you know, that Teflon kind of feeling. I'm at gold. Oh my god, I did it. And now I can eat this. And that was a massive eye opener to me. I think remember going back after Christmas and weighing in. I'm meant to be a gold member here, you know, setting examples and look what she did, and just going and feeling a little bit hopeless
Yeah.
again.
And isn't that the difference between a diet and a mindset?
Yeah.
Sorry, diet and a lifestyle. The diet is we're going to do whatever we need to do to reach that goal. And
Yeah.
then when we do, we take the brakes off.
Yeah.
And as we take the brake off, the weight start to creep back on because, as you say, we've not learned anything. All we learned is how to lose, how to get to that end goal. We've not learned about, you know, healthy eating, healthy lifestyle, what all of that,
Yeah.
which then in turns make the lifestyle. Yeah, interesting. So, and you're right, you know, it's only in the past couple of years that the weight loss industry has really embraced mindset. And my guest last week, Carolyn, was talking about that as well, is that it was only focusing in on the mindset that has helped her to lose weight, keep it off, and also progress in her weightlifting journey as well. And it was all around the mindset. So, so you then went back,
Yeah.
started to gain again.
Yeah.
Tell
So
us a bit more.
again, obviously feeling really disappointed when I saw that, you know, oh yeah, so it's and I remember and you know, it is obviously a nice point, but it was like that lean in from the doctor again sort of thing, because they don't want to shout. And admittedly I get that because it's, you know, it's confidential, but you got a room packed full of people and someone does that lean to you, oh my god, my heart just sunk. I went back to that small place again, like, you know, just being that young person walking into that dance studio and my teacher's face just going like that, and the doctor telling me when I was pregnant, like, you know, you need to maybe really look at what you're eating and things like that. And I felt like it was that look again, and I was like, I don't want it. So I actually went back for a couple of weeks. I think I lost like 2-3 pounds, and then I actually like threw the towel in for a bit. I just walked off and went to a completely different workshop altogether, and then I went missing for a couple of years, like many people do, because
Yeah,
I was
as you do.
like, I went on my own little like a little bit more of my own personal healing journey, and this is where mindset refocusing really came into play for me myself. And this was before going back to another class, and I remember just doing all this work, like me and all of my friends, we were doing all this kind of like, you know, mindset refocusing, bit of healing work and things like that, working on ourselves, like what things have like triggered us and all of that stuff. And I remember obviously meeting hubby and stuff, and we were dating, and I think I told him that, you know, I'm not in a happy place. And I think I'd already put on, so I put on that stone, I lost a couple of pounds, and I think by the time I met my hubby, I'd popped back on another like stone and a half easily. And I remember him saying to me, if you really want to do something, so he would obviously hear me typing and moaning. He's probably the closest person to me that would hear me like moaning, oh, this is that. And he was like, right, if you really want to do something, like you're gonna have to want to do it for you. And then he actually really pushed me to want to do it, but want to do it.
He sounds like he's been really, how has he continued to support you? Because that sounds so supportive.
how he supports me now is eating all my crazy concoctions of food. Like that, I would be like trying all these different things. Like I think he's been on, we've gone from probably really like high protein foods, so then me trying like vegan style foods, and him just not necessarily really saying anything apart from that tasted all right, and like just giving it a go and just really leaning into me trying all these different concoctions to try and enable me to have the foods that I want, be able to eat fun things, but also trying obviously all the weird things and not really ever really saying anything. I think that helped as well. Whereas if he was a bit like, I'm going to be sick, or he just wouldn't necessarily say anything about it, he would just be like, well, I decided that I'm going to make X for myself for dinner, but that looks really good. And he would always compliment and stuff. So there have been some crazy meal ideas and recipes come out over the years.
I love that.
But he's never.
So you met him as you'd gone back, started to lose a little bit of weight, and then how did you then progress the rest of your journey? Were you still going to classes, or were you still doing your own thing with your friends?
Yeah, so I did kind of break off from the classes again for a little bit of time, and then it was coming up to our wedding. That's when I went back. Then obviously lost a significant amount of weight for our wedding, so that was all great, all of that stuff. So it was like, yes, got my pictures and stuff. And I think I always used like weight loss class and things like that as, I've got to do it because it's for this or it's for that, or having an attachment to doing it for something. So that, I think I'm quite a I like a challenge, or I like a little bit of an extra success story. So I don't really think I thought about it. I was like, right, well, I've got to lose weight because it's my wedding, or it's somebody else's wedding, or we're going on holiday. So it was always associated to something. I think the real big bit was after we got obviously married. I then got pregnant. Obviously, I can't partake as such in an extreme like weight loss class, but while she's pregnant, and it's not obviously deemed, so having to listen, go back to the doctors, midwives and all of that, and take on their advice, just trying to keep in some of the habits that I'd obviously collected. Didn't put half as much weight on with my second daughter that I did obviously previously with my first daughter, so that was a plus, even though I still got the look. But I think by this point I'd built up so much inner confidence in myself that look was no longer phasing me. I was like, I know what the look is, but your look's not going to put me off. They have to do what they do. And I think around about this time as well with my second daughter, very, very hyper focused on, in the Black and Asian community, people contracting pregnancy diabetes and things like that. So they were trying to project and tell me this is what's going to happen to you because we've found all these things and these new studies, and me obviously knowing me because I've been pregnant before, but they have to treat it as it is. It's a new pregnancy, this and this and that. Also being told that it's a geriatric pregnancy, which that was a blow. I think that was more of a blow, them telling me I was geriatrically pregnant.
How old were you then for them calling?
I was over 30. So.
Oh, okay, goodness me, that's a bit rough calling it geriatric, isn't it?
So I think to be honest, I think a doctor could have told me anything then, but the fact that they told me I was geriatric, and my mind just go into the fact that I've got an auntie and she used to be a nurse and she worked on basically what was a geriatric ward where it was your over 70s, and I'm like, are these people being for real? I'm like 30, what was I, 32? Yeah, 31, 32, 32, and they're like telling me, oh yeah, you're past it, so now you're going to have all these other things, and having that look in their faces of them going, you're going to have this, you're going to have that, and they were really hammering home, and I think I stopped them dead in their tracks, and that's when I told them, I know all the things when it comes to like food, I know what you're going to tell me, but can I just let you know that, like, and I literally showed them around at the time, I showed them my phone, and I was like, I have previously been a Weight Watchers member. I've been working on my food intake and stuff. I know what I'm going to be eating. And lo and behold, thank God, in this pregnancy, this daughter she didn't have a sweet tooth at all. If I ate anything sweet, I was going to be sick. So it was very, vegetables and things like that. And so that obviously did help. And I think just my makeup of how I would like to eat foods as well. My metabolism kicked up to hyperdrive because I would literally eat, toilet, eat, and that, but nothing ever kind of stuck to me. So that was always a really good way of looking at it when I was pregnant. But I remember obviously after being pregnant with her, I think I waited 8 weeks postpartum, and then I jumped straight back in on my weight loss journey because I didn't want to wait like I waited the first time.
Right. So you wanted to,
Back.
get back straight in. So then, did you then find it easy transitioning back and going back and losing your weight? How was that for you?
Ultimately, I was a bit like, oh my God. Like, I think I put a bit of pressure on because I was like, oh, and I went into a bit of like diet mode.
Okay.
And then I had to remember what diet mode looked like before when I got to goal
Right.
before with my eldest daughter. And I knew instantly then I didn't want to do that. So what I did, that what I didn't learn about me the first time, I knew I didn't want to do it this time. So I had to really look and go, how is this going to work? Because the last time we didn't eat ice cream. We barely had a packet of crisps that wasn't, some sort of reduced salt, reduced fat, air fried, sky fried, or whatever it was, type of food that was basically fresh air. If I admit it, it was fresh air in a bag. How am I going to possibly get through this and still incorporate those foods, my cultural foods? Because someone trying to tell me I'm never going to have a fried dumpling, even if it was only ever on Carnival, I'm not listening to you. I can't take you seriously. So I had to make sure that I was going to do this a little bit more realistic to me. And because I've done all that work on, working on my mindset, that was actually really helping me. So when I did go back this time, that was a major factor. Weight Watchers at this time, they
I
had
love that.
embraced, looking at your mindset, focusing, how your mindset plays a really important role with how you feel. And that's when I really brought back into, I think I can do this now.
I love that. I love that. So the first time you were lost weight with Weight Watchers, you're saying you didn't really learn anything. You got to go following
Yeah,
the program, following the plan, but really didn't learn anything about yourself, about food,
no,
nutrition, or anything like that.
no,
The second time around, after having your second child, you lost a couple of pounds, but then you went off and worked on yourself,
yeah,
which I think is fantastic, because that leans straight into the mindset, which is so essential. And once you got those skills of mindset, that can take you absolutely anywhere for anything. It can help you in life. So I love that. And then after having your second child, now it sounds like it was a different journey, because you were leaning into all of those things that you'd learned before about learning about yourself, all the mindset things, still having all the food that you love. Sounds like it was a different journey. So
yeah.
what would you say that you've learned about yourself on your entire weight loss and wellness journey? What are one or two key things?
One of the most key things I've probably learned, and that's probably more in the last few years, I would say, but overall when I look back, is that wellness looks different on everybody. Like,
Yeah.
I 100% believe that. Like, looking at lots of different people, is all being hung up on this number, figure, the weight, what
Mm,
the scales are saying, what you think you should look like, how you think you should be. Like, I think understanding you and knowing where, how you want to feel, what is it that you want to feel more so, but also understanding that, is that what you want to be? And I think when I first got into my weight loss journey, it was very much an aesthetic than it was actual, more personal, like, development on my body. How is it working? And I think the second time, obviously getting round and back to goal, and I had my second daughter, I was breastfeeding. So that was a very vital point, is that whatever I'm eating, she is also, getting extracts and essences of that. So that really plugged in and pulled into the whole right, this is the reason I need to eat well, because my baby needs to eat exceptionally well, thinking of it like a fine dining restaurant sort of thing. This is what she's like coming for, and I want to make sure she gets the best start. And I think that having that as well, still having things like, fitting down the slides, that's always going to be important. You've got young children, things like that. You want to be running around with them. You want to be doing things with them to kind of help make them, keep them fit. But also, I think, looking at it from the point that wellness looks different on everybody. Also, I've got two girls. So it's very important to me that they are 100% confident and cannot be rocked in their person, and they know themselves inside and out, because I wish I'd have known me inside and out and felt as confident as I probably know my girls do, because they're very outspoken, and I was like, that was not me. So I'm probably doing something good, feel sorry for their boyfriends, husbands, whatever it is, but that is something that I didn't have, and I would really have wanted that as I was probably growing up, and knowing what I know now, and knowing how people project things onto you or make assumptions about you based on either an aesthetic or what they think you should be based on anything really, your background, where you're from, and all of those things. They kind of put you in these boxes, and I want my girls to make sure that they're never tied down to a box.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And well said. Well said. Wellness looks completely different for everybody. Right from, the dance teacher's image of wellness and health being that, a particular body shape, to what it is now. We see plus size dancers, disabled dancers, wheelchair sports people. Wellness looks so different. And as you were talking, I was thinking back to my very first guest on the podcast, Sherry. And wellness for her isn't at this stage, isn't so much about the scales, it's about her mental health and being well. And my second guest was Sheila, and for her, wellness incorporates her love of running and her faith. And Carolyn last week, wellness includes her weightlifting journey and her strength. So, you're so right, Avi. It's not just about that number on the scale. And unfortunately, we still see that being dominant and prominent in the weight loss industry, so it's a really good point that you made also, that you want to be that role model for your children, for your girls as well. I love that. So looking back on your journey so far, and what an incredible journey that you have had, is there anything you would do differently?
Yeah, I would probably say I would slow down and not be in so much of a rush to lose, but actually finding little nuggets within that things that I'm doing, what's making me happy, and how is my weight loss helping me in X, Y, and Z? Because that was something I never learned about myself. I didn't appreciate any of the stuff that my weight loss had done for me. If anything, I probably lost part of myself and my inner confidence when I did lose weight the first time. And that was why on the second time round going to gold, I wanted to make sure that that confidence was embedded and probably more at the forefront than, whether I lost a pound or whatever it was, or, if I got the stones off and all of those things. It was, am I doing things that make me happy? Because the first time round, I wasn't doing anything. I would avoid going out to eat with people. Someone saying, we're going Nando's. Well, I'll meet you for the drinks after, because in my mind, I was like, well, lemonade is less than me eating a Nando's right now. So I would avoid doing that. Whereas the second time round, I was like, we're going Nando's, and we're going to the hard food shop as well. And we're going to be eating what we're going to be eating. And no one's telling me any different. And the day someone actually turns around and tells me I'm not allowed a fried dumpling ever, because, I'm on a health and wellness journey. And I think, well, yeah, we all are, but there's always tomorrow, and not every day's perfect. So why are we always striving to be perfect?
I love that, because the wellness isn't, as we said, isn't just about the scales. It's
Mm.
also about the mindset and the lifestyle. And
Yeah,
if not going to eat your hard food, your fried dumpling, your Nando's, your curry goat and rice and all that, if all of that means that you can't enjoy that, if you've got to leave that behind, that's
yeah,
not a wellness journey, isn't it?
no,
And I love what you said about not being in such a hurry to live,
mm,
because the time's going to pass anyway,
yeah,
but it's how we can enjoy to make the healthiest choices along the way. And for me, I am 5 years and 9 months into my journey,
yeah,
and it's probably going to take me probably another year to hit my goal. So 6.5 years it'll
mm,
take for me to hit my goal. um and I'm glad that it's taken me that long. I'm
mm,
glad that I haven't lost 9 stones in 9 months, because I wouldn't have been able to enjoy the nights out and the drinks and the rice and peas and the curry. I wouldn't have been
exactly.
able to enjoy that,
No,
or learn about myself. And I love your point about your confidence as well
mm.
as part of this journey too. So V, what advice would you give to others who are perhaps thinking about getting started on their health, wellness and weight loss journey? What advice would you give?
um, I would highly recommend people, think about the reasons why. Why is it important for you to start on your health and wellness journey? Have a little bit of a look and a background there, because sometimes, if it is just, it's for an aesthetic or something like that, it's not really going to sustain you. And that was probably one big thing for me. I didn't have any future forward thinking about why, other than, my kids, and they're not going to want to play with their mum forever. So, that trope of taking the kids to the park kind of stops at 10 years when you actually look at it. Yeah, I'm no longer cool after 10. Like, mum, we can walk ourselves home from school, sort of thing, go with our friends to the park, we don't need you. So, I think that got me really thinking, like, my why needs to be bigger than just my kids then. And I think that's when, the real emphasis on my health and wellness journey really started, because when I watched my eldest one grow, I was like, damn, this little one's going to be growing behind her just as fast. And soon she's not going to want to be chilling with a mum on the park watching a mum slide down, because it might be embarrassing by then, Angela. So really think about, your why. And if it is, we've all got short term whys, but not many of us look at long term whys or the longevity of our whys. And being in your health and wellness era, it's not, I don't really like to call it an era, or it's a thing that you're doing, because I think that's very, it's a big trope that people, we jump on bandwagons. It's either after Christmas, Easter, or birthday, or you just come back off holiday and people go, I need to do X. I think realistically, if you look back and look at the bigger picture and look at how this is taking you forward into your future, without maybe the holidays are going to be there and they're going to be great. And yeah, possibly being lighter on your feet is always going to help with that, especially if you're running late for the airport gate. You're going to want to pick up your bags and get going. That is going to help you. But, looking at it from a health side of things as well, like in my family, osteoarthritis is a big thing. I know that is probably I might be facing down that gauntlet, touch wood. I'm hoping that I'm not. But it's looking at that side of things and looking at how, sometimes debilitating ailments as we get older, and sometimes things that we can't help kind of catch up with it. How the health and wellness that I'm doing for myself now, how that aids me going forwards in the future as well. Like, I want to be, like I say it all the time, and I've said it to people before, and they're like, oh, what do you want to be when you're older? I was like, I want to be the grandma that is there on sports day, and she's, kicking off her heels and running barefoot down the mum and dad race. You know what I mean?
I love that. Or like me last year when we
Mm,
were on holiday, I was the grandma in the middle of mini disco,
yeah,
doing all the cool moves with the grandkids, and
that's
all
what
the
you
other
want.
kids looking and saying, "Look at that,
Yeah,
Nanny!" And I was like, "Yes, that's what it's supposed to be."
yeah,
Yeah, it's a
and
wonderful
enjoying
feeling.
and
Yeah.
enjoying life. Really, I don't want to be And I've always had it in my mind that I always knew from a very young age, and seeing elders around me with ailments that were, you know, kind of causing them to stay either in the house or a lot of mobility issues and things like that. I was like, I always knew that that was something I didn't want to experience. And I'm talking elders, and I was young then, so they weren't really that old in comparison to where I am now. They were 10 years older than what I am now, and I think the times have changed as well, you know, especially on the image of what a grandma looks like in comparison to what a grandma looked like in the 80s.
Absolutely. Love
We've got
that.
to have a room full of the grandmas that are going to be looking super fly, and the grandkids better watch
Indeed,
out.
indeed. Do you enjoy a good smoothie or juice? I know I do. And including smoothies and juices into my meals has made a massive difference to me and has helped me to lose over 131 pounds to date. If you want juices and smoothies that are balanced, that taste good and are easy to make with everyday store cupboard ingredients, then feel free to check out my brand new ebook. My Smoothies and Juices recipe ebook contains 25 of my personal favourite recipes that I use on a regular basis to help me on my weight loss journey. You can download a copy of the ebook over at gumroad.com. It is available to purchase there, and when you purchase it, you will have access to lots of downloadable documents that can support you on your journey. So guys, head over to gumroad.com/timeout with Angela and check out the Smoothies and Juices ebook. Sophie, just to round up, this has been such an insightful interview and I've absolutely loved listening to your story. But one last question for you. What's your favourite dish and how do you incorporate it into your healthy lifestyle these days?
Oh, my favourite dish. It's going to have to be brown stew chicken.
Love that.
And all the sides. So, and people always go, oh, what are the sides? The sides are as follows. There's got to be coleslaw, and I'm talking real homemade coleslaw, not getting it from the co-op. Got to be real homemade coleslaw. I want macaroni cheese with real cheese. Yeah, this is like, it's not necessarily all the time that everything has to be an alternative.
Yeah.
I've got young kids in my house, so a lot of stuff isn't alternative, but it's about working with the alternative in the best way, or the straight up, you know, full fat of what it is, and just being mindful with how much I'm eating. I think, especially coming from a Caribbean background, my nan used to just fill up our plate with food and things like that. And I think we got into that state of, yeah, you just eat big plates, don't you? But realistically, do I? I never finished those plates when I was younger. So I think I go back to that and go, you never finished them when you was younger. So why have you got into this state? And I think it's about just enjoying a little bit of everything, but in moderation, you know, and that is wellness. That's mindfulness. That's you taking care of you. You can still enjoy foods. It might not be that you're having the whole Dutch pot full of the brown stew chicken. You might just be having a ladle full with some rice and some other bits, and making that important rather than going, I think I've got to have the whole thing. Yeah, because it's like with anything, you know, you don't see many people eating a whole bowl of celery sticks, do you?
No,
by
you
about the third stick, you're a bit bored and it's a bit, oh, samey. And I suppose I always think to that point of view, like, would I eat this if it was X and in this way? No, I probably wouldn't. So it's about bringing about having that moderation and enjoying the food rather than me going back to my kind of gluttonous stage of how much can I fit in, and that sort of thing. So yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah. All those Caribbean foods are such a delight. And, you know, and I'm sure you've heard this said many a times that, you know, especially in the wider weight loss industry, Caribbean and Asian and African foods isn't widely represented.
No.
And people often feel that, I know I've had it said to me, people didn't believe that they could lose weight or lead a healthier lifestyle whilst eating their cultural foods. And
Yeah.
I think you're a great example that you can enjoy your cultural foods and lose weight and live a healthier lifestyle. Yeah, and set that great example. Yeah, love that. V, thank you so much
Oh,
for
thank
being
you.
with us today. So, where can people find you if they want to on social media?
So on social media, you can find me on TikTok. You can find me. It's me VV. That's my handle over on TikTok. On on Facebook, it's just Valena Mackenzie, and over on Instagram, it's vboz27. So yeah, I'm over all the socials. You can come and find me, see what I'm posting. Mainly just me eating, drinking, living life, if anything.
Oh, that's
And
the
some
best
funny
way to be.
and some funny mum memes from here and there, because try not to take life overly too seriously, and keep a bit of fun in there as well. So yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, V, for being our guest today. This has been such an insightful interview, and I've loved every minute of it. And I hope you, our listeners, have too as well. Guys, we will be back next week with another interview podcast. So do come and join us. And feel free to join me on my socials too. I'm on YouTube at Time Out with Angela. Feel free to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. And the podcast episodes are listed there too. You can find this podcast on Spotify at Time Out for Weight Loss. On social media, you can find me at, I know this is going to take us all over the place, but just bear with me. My Facebook page is Time Out with Angela. The private Facebook group is Time Out for Weight Loss, and I'm Time Out with Angela on TikTok and Instagram. But I will list all the handles in the description box below, so do come along and join us. Guys, thank you so much for being with us, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Take care now. Bye.